रधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरो रधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति। कृपालु गुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर् गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः। गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। कस्तूरी तिलकं ललाटपटले वक्षस्थले कौस्तुभं नासाग्रे वरमौक्तिकं करतले वेणुः करे कङ्कणम्। सर्वाङ्गे हरिचन्दनं सुललितं कण्ठे च मुक्तावली। गोपस्त्री परिवेष्टितो विजयते गोपाल चूड़ामणि। नमः कमलना भाय नमः कमलमालिने। नमः कमलपादाय। नमस्ते कमलेक्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वं ह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Eternal devotees of God, let's spend a few minutes chanting the holy name. Let's chant the names of Sri Radharani. Radhe Radhe Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
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 Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
Radhe Radhe Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
Radhe Radhe Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe
राधे 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 राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे ओ राधे 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 श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे
राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे राधे
श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे श्री राधे राधे राधे
राधे राधे राधे राधे राधे
Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe,
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 Radhe Radhe, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe,
Radhe Radhe, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe.
बोलिए राधा रानी महारानी की जय, वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय, श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। Devotional listeners, now I humbly request your full attention, and do please check your phone to make sure that it will not ring during the discourse. A very important question was asked recently, and that question is, how can I gauge my devotional progress? This is a question that we all need to ask ourselves. We need to pose this question. We need to get the answer. How do we gauge our devotional progress? Well, devotion is a destroyer of sins. The Bhagavad says, Yathagnina hemamalam jahatidhmatam punaswam bhajate cha rupam atma cha karma anushayam vidhuya madbhakti yogena bhajatyatho mam. Just as fire destroys a huge pile of wood, in the same way, the practice of devotion destroys great number of sins. So as we practice devotion, as we walk on the path of devotion, we want to know if we're making progress, then we need to look inside. We need to look at the condition of our heart. What kind of thoughts am I thinking? Because if we are practicing devotion genuinely and diligently, then sins are being destroyed. As sins are being destroyed, the heart is becoming more and more pure. As the heart becomes more and more pure, good and kind thoughts come into the mind. We will find ourselves thinking good and holy and pure thoughts. We will then find it easier to see God within others. We know that God is omnipresent, but we are not able to see God within people who are around us. So one way to gauge devotional progress is to ask ourselves this question, am I able to see God? Is it becoming easier for me to see the goodness and the godliness in people around me, my family members, friends, fellow devotees, strangers, acquaintances? As we practice more and more devotion, God comes into the heart more and more. There's more presence of God within. So Rup Dhyan will become easier. It's a very good way to find out, to gauge our devotional progress. Am I finding it very, very difficult to do Rup Dhyan, or is it becoming easier? It's not that it's a piece of cake now, but it is easier than it used to be. We need to look at that. Is it easier now to do Rup Dhyan than it was earlier? The thoughts of malice, thoughts of envy, hatred, and such, these thoughts will be reduced. When we see that these thoughts, these thoughts of malice, are not as, I don't have as many thoughts of malice as I used to, they are reducing, and that's a very good sign that we are making progress. We need to also look at humility within us. What is the level of my humility? How humble am I? the practice of devotion makes the heart humble. Humility is a trademark of a devotee. Sant Eknath went early in the morning, as he always did, to bathe in the holy river. And when he came out, there was a man standing by the bank and he started spitting on the saint. Sant Eknath said nothing, but he went back to the river and bathed in the holy waters once again. When he came out again, the man was standing there waiting for him, and he started spitting on the saint. Once again, the saint had no reaction. He simply went back to the river and bathed once again. This happened back and forth, again and again. The same thing happened, the same sequence. He would bathe, he would come out, and this man would spit on him. He would go back, the saint would go back, bathe, and the man would spit on him. When this happened again and again, the man who was spitting, he became tired of spitting. And because he was thinking that Sant Eknath would pick a fight with him. So he was perplexed. Why is he not fighting with me? Why does he have no reaction? So he asked the saint, what are you made of? Are you made of wood or stone? There's no reaction. I've been spitting on you for your kind information. Sant Eknath said, oh, you're right. No, I should have had a reaction. I'm so sorry. I should have thanked you. So thank you so much. Not the reaction this man was looking for. You're thanking me? Yes. Because every day I bathe in the holy waters just once. Because of you, I bathed in the wonderful holy waters many times. So I am grateful to you. This man fell at the feet of the saint because he had heard about Sant Eknath's humility. He wanted to test the humility of the saint for himself. And the saint passed with flying colors. As devotion grows in the heart, humility also grows. So how humble am I? We need to be very unbiased. We need to ask ourselves these questions. And we must not trust our mind. If you ask your mind, am I making progress on the path of bhakti? The mind, which is our biggest fan, will say, are you joking with me? Asking this question? But don't you know that you are one step away from God realization? You're so good. You are the best. We should not ask our mind. Our mind flatters us. And flatterers are very dangerous. In the Bhagavad, there's a story told of a king called Poundrak Vasudev. His flatterers, his ministers, they convinced him that he was the real deal, that he was a real Vasudev. That Krishna was an imposter, and then they said, Maharaj, you are the real Vasudev. You are Mahavishnu. You are the avatar of Mahavishnu. So this man, he protested first, but then they kept on praising him, so he convinced himself, yes, I am Mahavishnu. And his flatterers, they went to the extent of attaching 2 artificial limbs, 2 artificial arms on him. And they gave him all the paraphernalia as well. They managed that. They convinced him to send a challenge to Bhagwan Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna laughed at the challenge and sent him back a message. Do you have a death wish? You want to be killed? I don't want to fight with you. Poundrak wrote back to Sri Krishna, you coward, come and meet me in the battlefield on such and such a day, at such and such a time. Sri Krishna said, all right. Poundrak reached the battlefield, and immediately upon reaching, he was killed very easily by Sri Krishna. So flattery got him killed. Flattery is very dangerous. Sammanam kalayati ghoragaralam nichapamanam sudham. Saints have said, regard praise to be very potent poison and regard criticism to be very sweet, sweet like amrit, sweet like nectar. We should not be flattered by our mind. We shouldn't ask the mind, hey, how am I doing? No, wrong answer would be given. We must gauge our devotional progress by using the measurements that saints and scriptures have given us, such as increase in humility. Am I humble? How do I conduct myself? Am I proud of the fact that I am doing devotion? Do I go around telling everybody, look, when I sit down for sadhana, I cry. I keep a Kleenex box with me. And by the end of sadhana, it's half done. I cry so much. I know tears just come. They just flow, just like that. I'm always thinking of God. और पूरा दिन भर मेरे दिमाग में वही रहते हैं, वही श्याम सुंदर छाए रहते हैं बस दिलो दिमाग में. The more devotion there is in the heart, the more humility there is. And humility is very dear to God. Ishwarasyaapyabhiman dveshitvad dainya priyatvacha Narad Bhakti Sutra. In the Narad Bhakti Darshan, this is one of the aphorisms, one of the sutras, one of the 84 sutras, in which Narad Muni says, God has an aversion to pride, and he has great love for humility. He loves the humble souls. Lord Buddha found himself face to face with a very severe critic. A man came to Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha was meditating, and he used the choicest words. He gave lots of galis to Lord Buddha, and he hurled lots of abusive words at him. Lord Buddha said nothing. He just said nothing because he felt nothing. So after a long time, Buddha called one of his disciples and said, this man is our guest. He has been using his voice for so long, and you have not even offered him a glass of water. That is not good. You must ask him, sir, would you like some water? Ask him. And the man was stunned. He said, but I have been criticizing you, I have been abusing you verbally for the last 2 hours, and this is your reaction? Why are you not offended? Why don't you take offense? Why are you not angry? And Lord Buddha said, tell me, my good man, tell me, if someone gives you a gift and you don't accept it, who does the gift remain with? The man said, with the giver. Exactly. You, my good man, you came to me, you gave me the gift of abusive words, but I have no use for them. I did not accept your gift. So this gift of abusive words has stayed with you. I didn't accept those words, so why should I take offense? And the man was amazed at this humility. We must regularly check the level of our humility, just like we check the level of oil in the car. Check for humility. What is my level? Tolerance also. Tolerance. The one who practices devotion sincerely increases his tolerance level. Let's say you are on the road, you are driving to work, and someone behind you thinks that you're going too slow. You're following the speed limit. But the person behind you is in a great hurry, and he doesn't like the fact that you're driving. He wants you to speed up. You don't. So he cuts you off. And as he cuts you off, he rolls down the window and he tells you exactly what he thinks of you. how are you going to react? Are you going to take offense? Are you going to laugh it off? Are you going to think, oh, my Lord is testing me? My Guru is testing me. Sri Krishna is testing me. Are you going to think that way? There could be so many people in the same situation, but their reactions would be very, very different. When someone is knowledgeable, if someone is knowledgeable, he will not take offense. He will just laugh it off, or he will think it's a test, and he will see Sri Krishna in that man, in that person. Now, what if you are thinking that the driver ahead of you is driving very slow, and you're going to be late for work if this continues? Are you going to let him know what you think? Are you going to try to speed him up? Are you going to get angry? Or are you going to think, oh, I see, you're taking Radharani somewhere. So you want to be very sure that she reaches there safely. No, please go on, carry on in the same speed. And I use this example because this is what someone told me. He said, I was getting very frustrated, but then I remembered your lecture. And then I thought, no, Radharani, please take your time. That is success, if we can start thinking like this. And the practice of devotion makes us more tolerant. Gauranga Mahaprabhu has praised Deenta and Sahanshilta so much, humility and tolerance. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Mahaprabhuji has said, be more humble than a blade of grass. Blade of grass being stepped upon does not retaliate, it becomes more humble, it bows itself further, bends further. And the tree, when stones are thrown at it, it does not retaliate, but it gives sweet fruits to eat. It is so tolerant. So, O aspiring devotee, be more humble than a blade of grass, and more tolerant, more forbearing than a tree. Humility will increase. The level of tolerance will increase. You will not mind the words of criticism. You will take them in a positive light. You will not be offended by rude words, impolite words, insulting words. You will take them as a test of God. Or you will try to think. See, we will start to think that, is this fellow right? This person who is calling me these names, am I really that? And I should work on this. I should work on my vices. I should work on my shortcomings rather than taking offense. As the level of devotion increases, then there is a desire there is great tendency to see the goodness in others. And then the desire to be praised, the desire to be recognized goes down. Amanina manadena. That aspiring devotee does not wish to be recognized, does not wish to be praised, but gives praise to everyone else because he sees the goodness in others. As we grow in devotion, we are able to see our own faults. Earlier we saw none. Now we are able to see. Oh, I do have this fault. It becomes as easy to see our own faults when we have advanced on the path of devotion as it was earlier easy as it was to see the faults of others. We have a tendency to see faults in others. No sooner have we seen a person that we have made certain points. Point number 1, this is what's wrong with him. This is another thing that's wrong with him. He is too lazy. He gets too angry. He doesn't know how to dress, doesn't know how to talk, doesn't know how to walk. we pass criticisms, we pass comments in our own mind. Outwardly, we may say, we may praise him, but inwardly, it is a tendency that we have a tendency to find faults in others. Bhartrihari has said, Maunan mukah pravachan patushchatulo jalpakova. He says, if you are the silent type, quiet type, people will criticize you. They will say you don't know how to talk. You are unfamiliar with the art of conversation. He's a fool, doesn't know how to talk. And if you're fond of talking, people will say, oh, watch out, here he comes. Motor mouth. Once he starts, it's impossible to shut him up. Either you don't know how to talk or you talk too much. If you dress well, people will say, wow, fancy dresser. So fancy. What's the need to be so fancy? And if you are dressed simply, then doesn't know how to dress. She doesn't know how to dress. Doesn't know what to wear. Totally unaware. If you're a friendly type and you go visiting people, they're likely to think, why did she come over so often? She has nothing better to do, I guess. Yeah, some people have all the time in the world. She just comes so often. Why? If you don't like to visit others, they'll say, do you think you're too good for us? You never come over? We are too low and you're too high? Our levels don't match? What is one to do? Bhartrihari says, people will find fault with you no matter what you do. So it is a tendency that we have. This is our tendency, to find faults with others. But when you see yourself, when you find that you are not finding faults with others, you're finding faults with yourself, then that is a sure sign of devotional progress. How can we point the finger at everyone else? You know, it is said that when you point one finger at someone else, you're pointing 4 fingers at yourself. And how can we find faults with others when we have so many? And if we say, I just have a habit of finding faults, that's good. So find those faults within yourself, not with others. We find faults with even a person who does not have that fault. But it's all in the mind, all in the mind. We look at a person, we make up our own story. We look at the way she is looking, the way her expressions are. We totally misread those expressions. And we have made up a story in the mind. We have made up our impressions. And then we broadcast that. She's like this. He's like that. A dangerous habit. But we certainly don't go around saying, we do talk about the faults of others, but we certainly don't say to someone, we don't say to anyone, I have this fault. Our faults, we pass off as our virtues. And others' virtues, we dismiss as their faults. We're very good in doing that. But the practice of devotion does change us. It does transform the heart. It cannot be that we are practicing devotion diligently and we are not seeing any results. How can that be? You mix, you have a glass of water, you mix a spoon of sugar in it. You drink it, you will taste the sweetness. You take a teaspoon of salt and you mix it in water. The water will become salty. You will taste that. How can it be that you're doing devotion, you're trying to wash your mind, you're trying to purify your mind, you're bringing God into your mind, and that mind is not changing at all? It's not being transformed. If the heart is not transforming, then it's obvious we are doing something wrong. We are not practicing devotion properly. We will be able to see our own faults. Also, the one on the path of devotion does not speak much. Sri Maharaji has given all of us, the whole world, a mantra. He didn't breathe it into anyone's ear. He said it to everyone on the mic, on the microphone. That is, Kam bolo, mitha bolo. Speak little and speak sweetly. Only one of that, okay, speak little, I speak little, but I don't speak sweetly. Whenever I speak, I do speak little, but whenever I speak, those are poisonous words I speak. That's not good. I do speak sweetly, but I speak a lot all day long. That's not good either. So we must speak little and speak sweetly. So with the practice of devotion, the tendency to speak a lot, talk a lot, that tendency gets reduced. Please close the door. The tendency to speak a lot goes down. So we wish to speak little. And the words that are spoken are sweet, because that is the outcome of devotion. That is a byproduct of devotion. Tulsidas ji has said, Tulsi मीठे वचन ते सुख उपजत चहुओर वशीकरण यह मंत्र है तजि दे वचन कठोर. Sweet words must be spoken. Give up the habit of speaking harshly. कोयल का को देत है कागा का सो लेत है कोयल का को देत मीठे वचन सुनाए के. The koyal, the cuckoo bird. Everyone wants to hear the cuckoo bird. Does this bird give something to us? No. Nobody wishes to hear the crow. Nobody wants to have a crow around. Why? Does the crow steal things from us? No. But it's just that the cuckoo bird sings very sweetly. Its words are very sweet. So we want to hear those words. Tulsidas ji says to the sadhak, aspiring devotee, speak sweet words. Sri Maharaj ji says, Kam bolo, mitha bolo. Speak little, speak sweetly. The aspiring devotee who is practicing devotion, who wishes to know how to gauge his devotional progress, must look at this point also. Does he trust the will of God? As one grows in devotion, one has more and more faith in God. Faith is growing. So, the calamity that befalls him in life, he does not get disturbed. He says, he thinks, this is the will of God. There's hidden grace in this. God gave this to me for a purpose, because God loves me selflessly. So, this calamity is not a real calamity. It just looks like that, but it is a blessing from God. He has more and more faith in God as he practices more and more devotion. Jnani bhugte jnanate murkha bhugte roye. Tulsidas ji says, the one who is enlightened, one who has great knowledge, he goes through life with a smile on his face, whereas the fool is always crying. Smallest little problem in life becomes devastating for him. But the one who is knowledgeable, huge devastating situation in life seems small because he has faith in the will of God. He trusts God. So we have to ask ourselves, do I have that faith in God that if something terrible were to happen to me, I could still have lots of faith in God, I would still love God, I would love God more and more? Do I have that faith? There's another way to gauge our spiritual, our devotional progress. The one who is on the devotional path, if he's really making progress, he does not wish to waste his time. He has understood that time is short. And he wishes to use maximum amount of time to make progress on his path, on the path that he's following. So he doesn't have much time. He does not wish to devote so much time to the world. His social calendar is not full. His devotional calendar is full. Because if he wishes to make progress, then he should not be involving himself in the world so much. Then he must come away from the world. He must spend more and more time on making progress in devotion. Rupa Goswami ji has said, avyartha kalatvam. समय को गमाना. भक्त जो होता है, जो उन्नति कर रहा है भक्ति में, वो बर्दाश्त नहीं करता कि कोई आके उसका समय बर्बाद करे या वो किसी के पास जाके समय बर्बाद करे. श्री महाराज जी used to say, if someone comes to you, a neighbor, a friend, and says, I wish to borrow a chair. All right, you may borrow the chair. And that's it, you're done. And now to say, please come, you can take the chair, but first have a cup of tea. Let's gossip a little bit. Let's talk about this one and that one. That is wrong. That's not what an aspiring devotee should be doing. Kam guftano. A saint has said, Kam guftano. Speak, the one who is in love speaks little. So the one who is loving God and his love is getting deeper and deeper, he's not going to be speaking much and he's not going to waste his time. He has faith, or rather, he has respect for everyone because he is beginning to see that God is in everyone. He is able to experience to a certain extent that God is within everyone. So there is no question of him disrespecting anyone. He does respect one and all, but he does not want to waste his time. Someone said to me once, he said, you know, this lady called me and she wasted 3 hours of my time on the phone. And my answer was, how could you tolerate that? How is it that you allowed someone to waste 3 hours of your time? And that too, talking about what? Talking against someone. And that too, someone who is thought to be, who is known to be a great, great soul. You accepted someone talking to you for 3 hours against a saint, and you're saying, shame on this woman, she wasted my time, and I would say, shame on you that you indulged in that. How could you do that? Why? Because you liked it. You found it interesting. Who spends 3 hours on the phone listening to someone if they're not enjoying it? It's our own shortcoming. One who is on the devotional path would never tolerate something like that. You make an excuse. Well, oh, so sorry, I've got to go. I've got to do something pressing. You can make 1,000,001 excuses. We should not be putting someone else, we shouldn't be putting the blame on someone else. The blame is with us. Avyartha kalatvam, do not waste time. So one on the devotional path does not waste his time. But he's always ready for satsang. Namagane sadaruchi. Rupa Goswami ji says in his scripture, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, that one who is making devotional progress, he always wants to chant the name of God. He's never too tired for that. He's always interested in taking the name of God. He always has a desire to visit the places where the Supreme Lord has performed his pastimes. He has great love for these places, these holy places. And if he does not go there physically, he goes there mentally. His mind is sometimes in Gokul, sometimes in Barsana. Dhyan ghan sham ka दीवाना बना देता है, बागे दुनिया को भी दीवाना बना देता है, बागे दुनिया को भी वीराना बना देता है. ध्यान सांवरे सरकार का तेरा इस दिल को, कभी गोकुल कभी बरसाना बना देता है, कभी गोकुल कभी बरसाना बना देता है. So this devotee is taking his mind to Barsana, Gokul, Vrindavan. That's where he is spending his time. That's how you know that you're making devotional progress. You have this virakti within. You become more and more detached from the world, which does not mean that you give your car away, you give your worldly belongings away. There goes the jewelry. Oh, no, please, you wear it. You give away your worldly belongings, and then you think the next day, what did I do? I want them back. You give them up internally, because virakti, detachment, is always in the mind. It does not have to be physical. Sometimes you find it easier to be detached physically as well, but it's the mental detachment that is important. The gopis were householders. They were living the life of a householder. There was nothing that to suggest to anyone. There was nothing about them that would suggest that they are detached, but they were completely detached from the world. And you could have someone living high up on a mountain. There may be 2-3 sannyasis and they're fighting with each other. Hey, that's my begging bowl. How dare you touch my begging bowl? That's my piece of cloth. I brought that food. You can't touch it. They may be saying Ram, Ram, and ready to kill one another. It's not the external detachment, it's the internal detachment that counts. So are you becoming the aspiring devotee, wishing to know his devotional progress, about his devotional progress, wishing to gauge his devotional progress, has to ask, am I becoming detached from the world? He has much less, his desire for worldly goods, worldly property is now reduced to a great extent. He finds pleasure in giving, not in bringing, not in getting and receiving. He gets great pleasure from giving. He wishes to do more and more seva of all types. He wishes to serve devotionally. He wishes to serve physically, financially, in every way possible that he can. He is making devotional progress. Because he's asking himself, what am I leaving this for? Who am I leaving it for? Why am I accumulating so much wealth? And he does the calculation, how many years do I think I have? How much money can I spend? I will never be able to spend this much money. I don't need this much money. And I'll give it after my death. No, I'm going to do it right now. He's making devotional progress. His thought process is changing. Earlier he used to say, no, let's keep it for a rainy day. Let me give the least amount possible. He would go to the mandir and he would put a little coin in there, in the collection plate, or in the hundi, in the donation box. And he used to be proud of that. Oh, I go every Sunday and I put a few coins in there. Now he can give big amounts without anyone knowing, and he still thinks, I have given nothing. I have not given anything. That is progress. He's becoming detached from the world. He's living with his family. He's a householder. He has a job. He's earning money, spending money too. But now he's very careful about how much he needs to spend on himself. Earlier it was like $500 chashma, that sunglasses, the latest style. Now he thinks, you know what, this one does the job, it's fine. Because he has understood. Lord Krishna is saying, in the scriptures, what are you doing with spending so much on yourself? This is not good. It's not allowed. I'm not allowing it. Yavat bhriyeta jataram tavat swatvam hi dehinam. Adhikam yo bhimanyeta sasteno dandamarhati. Bhagavad. O humans, you're entitled to as much wealth as you require for your basic needs. For your basic needs. How much do you need for your basic needs? Sri Krishna doesn't say how much do you need to satisfy your greed. He talks about need versus greed. How much do you need how much do you require for your basic needs, for a basic living? The rest of it, give it as charity. Don't keep it with you. The one who's making progress understands this, he internalizes it, and he starts living like that. That's another way to gauge our devotional progress. So we must look at many measurements. One is humility, another is tolerance. There was a saint by the name Usman. He was walking down the street with some of his followers, devotees, his students, and suddenly from the second story of the house, someone threw down ashes from the kitchen, and those ashes just fell right on the head of Sant Usman. His disciples were incensed. They made immediate plans to go inside the house to confront the offender. But then they saw their guru's reaction. He had tears falling from his eyes, and he was looking upwards, and he was saying, "My Lord, you're so merciful. You're so forgiving. Because I'm such an offender that I deserve to have hot, burning coals thrown on my head. But you just threw cold ashes on me. How merciful you are, how forgiving you are." That is humility. That is tolerance. The humility of Sant Eknath, the humility and tolerance of Sant Usman, humility of Lord Buddha, the tolerance of Lord Buddha. We say, well, these are saints, that was God. Yes, but how does one become a saint? A saint was once like us, an ordinary person. We must take steps. We're on the path of devotion, walking on the path of devotion, and we are being instructed by the Guru of Gurus, Jagat Guru. No, not only Jagat Guru, Jagat Guruttam. The philosophy is next to, it's the best. We all accept that. Not only do the devotees of Sri Maharaji accept that, even a stranger who hears it says, "I have never heard anything like this." I have met people who follow others as gurus, but when they hear Sri Maharaji's philosophy, they're reduced to tears. And they say, "We have never heard anything like this. I have never heard anything like this." There was a gentleman whose house I was accommodated in by the mandir, the temple people, temple officials, and his guru's pictures were all over the house. He had such great love and faith in his guru. And then I started talking to him about Maharaji's philosophy. I talked about Rup Dhyan, and he said, "Please tell me more, tell me more, tell me more." And as I was leaving his house, he was crying. He said, "I've never cried for anyone in my life except for my guru, and you are the second person I'm crying for. You have taught me something I did not know." Now imagine this man who has been following his guru for a good 20, 30 years is saying that he had never heard about Rup Dhyan. He had never heard anything like this. And he was so enriched. He said, "I'm so enriched by hearing what you had to say." So the philosophy we are following is so great. It's the greatest. In other words, it's a philosophy of the scriptures, but it is presented to us in such a way that we understand it. How is it that we are able to understand such difficult concepts of the Vedas? The credit goes to Jagat Guruttam Sri Kripaluji Maharaj. So here we are, walking on the path, guided by Jagat Guruttam himself. And we have to ask ourselves, what is my excuse now? Why am I not making progress? And if you say, well, I am making progress, and I believe that we are all making progress. If we are trying, we are making progress on the path. But to gauge that devotional progress, we must not ask our mind, how am I doing? We must ask the scriptures and saints. We must look at the philosophy of Sri Maharajji, and what I have shared with you is exactly that, what Sri Maharajji has taught us, that this is how you gauge your devotional progress. This is how you are able to come to understand whether or not you are making progress, or how much progress you are making. We should not be asking each other. So here, you and I talk. Let's gauge each other's devotional progress. Sometimes people say two friends will say, hey, let's tell each other's faults to one another. Bad idea. Those two friends will become enemies if they're brutally honest. And then again, nobody wants to say a good friend telling a man telling his friend, a woman telling her friend, whoever it is. Can you imagine telling your best friend, well, I didn't want to tell you this, but since you're asking, you are a very greedy fellow. There goes the friendship. Nobody wants to hear it. The other one will take offense. Then how dare you say I'm so greedy? But you asked me. Well, since you asked me also, let me tell you that you are such and such and so and so. You can't ask friends and fellow devotees. No. That doesn't work. We don't want to look bad in anyone's eyes. We don't want to find fault with anyone. We don't. We need to ask our Guru. Sri Maharajji's teachings are right there. We should use those teachings to gauge our devotional progress. Now, the Guru has nothing to gain from any one of us. So I would like to tell you about something that Maharajji said to a devotee. Sri Maharajji said, I'm just trying to tell you that a Guru does not have any fear of anyone. That if I speak clearly to this one, he will leave me and I will have one less disciple. There's no such fear. There's nothing to gain from anyone, so his feedback will be genuine. Sri Maharajji said to a devotee, your name, Narayan, suits you. That is good, isn't it? That's a compliment. Narayan, Mahavishnu, wow. My name is Narayan, it suits me. Thank you, Maharajji. Next, Maharajji said, Narayan sleeps in water. You are sleeping in the stupor of Maya. You have no concern with God. You don't do sadhana. You are attached to very worldly people. And as Maharajji was saying this, the devotee's head was going further down. And I was thinking, who has the guts to say all this? Who has the courage to say this? You are very worldly. You don't do sadhana. You sleep too much. You are attached to very worldly people. You are a very lazy fellow. You are careless in devotion. That's amazing. Even mother and father don't talk like that. जाने दो, नाराज हो जाएगा, कोई help नहीं करेगा हमारी, बुढ़ापे का सहारा नहीं बनेगा ये. Parents are afraid to tell their children. The Guru is not afraid. So Sri Maharajji has told us clearly in his teachings how to gauge devotional progress, and we must do this. I think it's best to do it every single day, but if not, then on a weekly basis. If not, at least on a monthly basis. If not, at least on a yearly basis. But the best thing to do is to do it on a daily basis. This is the suggestion of Sri Maharajji. He used to say that this is a suggestion, if you want to take it as a suggestion, or it's an instruction, if you want to take it as such. But it would be good to do an introspection every single night at the end of the day to find out, to gauge your devotional progress. बोलिए जगत गुरुतम श्री कृपालु जी महाराज की जय, लाडली लाल की जय, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे. We are going to watch 15 minutes of blissful moments in Mangad with Sri Maharajji.